Hello, welcome. This is the Resilient Rooster. I'm back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today I'm going to be showcasing the 60 card Magnet Warriors. This deck was on the House of Champs channel. If you want to see how it did or how it performed, I'll leave a link in the description below. I made some few slight changes with the extra deck, but for the most part the main deck is pretty much the same. So let's get right onto the replays. For the most part, whenever you're playing any type of Magnet Warrior deck, the first goal is to get Black Dragon to the graveyard. And to do that, you basically make the last one card, or you use Brilliant Fusion with summoning Zirconia. And in this one, I basically use 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types to make the last one card. And that basically saves my Brilliant Fusion to use on a Seraphonite instead. So I basically use a Seraphonite and I can go off even harder. And now that I got the Black Dragon to the grave, it basically makes me summoning the Skull Dread even easier, since now I got 4 different type of monsters. I get 3 cards from the Black Dragon and then 4 cards from the Skull Dread, and it basically helps me fix my hand. So the goal of this deck is basically hopefully try to survive for the next turn. There's not a lot of disruption, but here if I did make Firewall, I would have at least had one sort of disruption. But I would say that this deck probably could break, going second boards. Well, maybe. But there, like this play, I sort of stopped because I didn't have a Firewall at the time. But I fixed my deck later to have Firewall, and I feel like if I had Firewall, I could have kept on going. But right now, I'm just trying to help, break their board, or not break their board, but survive their board. So I got the Effect Veiler for the Black Rose, thank God. Otherwise, all my cards would have just went to the grave. So they made the Borlo Dragon, which was pretty good. Not sure why they weakened my Skull Dread if they were gonna take it. But they took it, they attacked, and I used my Proxy Dragon to send my other card instead. That way I could keep my Leviair alive. That way I could just use it and just bait out any cards. I make the Borlo to bait out the back row. Otherwise I would have just took the Borlo, took the Skull Dread, and just go on and attack. So there I basically have free reign to do anything I want. And this deck basically, if you can survive next turn after you set up all your plays, you can really go off. And right now I have a lot of cards in the graveyard, so I could just keep continuing doing anything I want. And right now I basically have enough for games. Being a 60 card deck, I was kind of surprised on how well this deck works. You run a bunch of random monsters like the Zodiac cards, but they all do one function, and it's to get the Curious card. That way you can send it and get the Black Dragon to the grave. Here I have the Black Dragon in my hand, but I still sent the Black Dragon. I'm not sure why I did that. It's probably better to send up the Gold Bulb, so that way you can make them Trio Beasts if possible. So all these cards, they all work in unison. They basically get you more summon and more summons. You have your normal summon for sure, and then you have the Seraphonite from the Brilliant Fusion, and then you have the Skull Dread to get your special summon. And if you have Firewall on the field, you get even more summons. But I think in this replay, I didn't really take advantage of Firewall that much. I did summon Firewall in this one, since I finally put it in my deck, but I thought ending it with the Baguska is good enough. So I just used the Baguska, and I got the Black Dragon to the grave. That way I can protect from any board wipes at least. So my opponent attempts to play through it, but looking at their hand, they didn't have much. And I just used Firewall's effect to bounce it, that way I could just attack for a game. Here I accidentally put my Black Dragon in attack mode before I put Baguska, but it didn't matter since I was able to win anyway. In this next duel, it looked like I had a brick hand, but it turns out this hand was quite decent. I had the Gigantus to banish the Giant Rex, which basically gave me the 3 monsters I needed to summon the Curious. And now I send up the Global Bulb, that way I can make them the Trio Beasts and lock down the spells. So this was kind of a decent board. But it was unfortunate that they drew the Ghost Ogre. They should have activated the Terraforming, and that would have negated the Ghost Ogre and then activate Unit Hanger. I think that they had a chance actually to get the ABC Buster on board, but they misplayed, and I'm going to try to capitalize on this. I do waste my battle phase in getting rid of this Baguska, but I felt like it was necessary. That way I can set up a board and try to stop them on their next turn. And I think the best way to stop an ABC player is to maybe make an Abyss Dweller or make the Baguska. That way they can't really spam out as much. So I was able to summon the Baguska, and this field is kind of decent. If my field survives, then I can use Leviair and spam out even more monsters. So I basically stopped them from making the ABC Buster by ghost ordering their field spells. So this was a very good turn on my part. And now this is the part where I start spamming. I made the board load, that way I could take any of their monsters if necessary. And I think the easiest way is just for me to summon the firewall next to my board load dragon. But I think here I was just being too fancy. I think summoning the firewall here would have just dealt everything nicely, since they would have been able to do anything in response, and I would have just been able to attack for game. But instead I went the long route, but in the end it still worked out and I got to attack for game. And this is one of those duels, if I got hand trapped, it would have sucked. I tried to activate the Brilliant Fusion, it went through, so it was quite fortunate that I was able to summon the Curious card and just go off from there. They do have the evenly match, I don't know it yet, but I try to make the best board I can no matter the situation, and just hopefully I can play around it. So I was able to, you know, go off even more because I got the Skull Dread now, and I feel like the best play is usually to make a firewall and have at least one, you know, disruption. I do have the Ghost Ogre and the Ash, so it'll make it a lot easier when I play on my opponent's turn as well. So I got the firewall and I got the Orbital Highlander or Hydrolander, and this is basically my two disruptions. They do have the evenly match, but I'll ban it, or I bounce back my alpha, that way I can actually use my orbital on my opponent's turn. So they set and I use it on the end phase, and I got rid of the Olanoides, the MST. So I tried to activate it again, but this time I had two names that are the same in my graveyard, so I couldn't destroy a card. But I had the Ash to stop their plays, and this is basically my bounce to get back in the game. So I'm just saying that this deck it's pretty good in, you know, getting a bunch of monsters on board. You basically start spamming out as much as you can and just attack for game. So in this next duel, I'm going second and my opponent is going first. They got the Swap Frog, so that basically means that they got a totally awesome. I didn't feel like using the Ash Blossom on it because I feel like they would have got it regardless. So I'm gonna save it until they special summon the Dupe Frog. So now it's my turn. They try to summon, I ashed, and now I got the Link Slayer to bait out the two back rows. The totally awesome, I baited it out because they would have lost the two cards. So I felt like this is a good trade because now I can basically do anything I want unless their back row actually does something, which doesn't really do much since they got a Reckless Greed and the Olanoides. But since I don't have the Brilliant Fusion, I think that card doesn't do anything in this entire game. And right now I'm just going off as much as I can. I got the Curious and I now got the Proxy Dragon, so I can make the Firewall and just bounce the totally awesome, that way it doesn't get its graveyard effect. So I started spamming, I got a lot of cards, and at this point I pretty much have enough for game. So I attacked and it's over. It wouldn't be a good showcase if I didn't open up the Grasslook Screener in a 60 card deck. So this is one of the games where I managed to draw it and pull it off successfully. It helped me make the Curious without normal summoning, so that's super good. And since they don't have an extra deck, I'm assuming they're playing True Draco or they're playing Monarchs. So I think making the Naturia Beast is the best play. I got the Naturia Beast and I got the Block Dragon. So this field might not look strong, but I do have a graveyard and it will help out a lot. My opponent did got the Amano Waddle, so they were able to out my Naturia Beast and my Curious card, but I felt they should have tributed their monster, that way they'd be immune to monster effects. I can use my Fairytale Snow to bait out any card because I would have been able to book a Moon, so they used a Strike, but I was able to get my Dodge Scrapper and the Giant Rex through the banished costs. I tried to destroy the Masterpiece with the Orbital Highlander, but it didn't work out well because I had two cards with the same name, so that kind of sucks. But now that I have so many cards in my hand, my next goal is basically to make the Borlo Dragon so that I can steal the Masterpiece and just attack for game. And I was able to pull it off, so I got all my summons, the normal summon, the special summon, and the additional normal summon. I got the board load, and this is basically where I have so much advantage. I stole the Masterpiece so that I could attack them for game. So that's it for the replays. If you enjoy it, please click the like button. If you want to see more Yu-Gi-Oh content, please click the subscribe button. Thank you for watching and have a great day.